It's May 16th, 2022. Strangest thing. I mean, this has happened once before, but it doesn't normally happen this way. I turn Linda's TV on, and it's not on a station, but all of a sudden there's some broadcast of something called a Bloomberg coming through. Now, I hit the tape button in case anything significant was going on. And when I did that, it said Bloomberg surveillance. And I'm like, that's such a word, label, and pattern of significance, like power surge. And I'm like, I might, because I mean, again, came out of nowhere on the magical machine. It was just this morning tied into the power button as I turned it on. Then, along that exact thought process, which is what I was already having, and this is odd. Again, environmentally, when odd things happen, I'm just making notes because something's off and it really doesn't feel right, and I'm really uncomfortable with all of this like forced touching in the real world my entire life that led to this part where I can't seem to find the correct contacts or touches of significance and influence that I need in order to just be able to live and pursue some happiness, because there's no happy here. So I'm looking and the commercial comes on and it says it's an IBM commercial, which I've heard of before. And then it says that what if you had something in Scotland and then it says your technicians were in India? I don't know what form of India, because I used to watch Ancient Aliens and appreciate that level of population in anthropology and Ancient Aliens, and the scripts and the artwork and the vintage and everything cultural. Now I'm watching the world fall apart. There was some mention of some kind of shooting that happened. I'm not giving it any airtime. I'm not even going to document it. It's just a mention. Happened in Buffalo. 10 people got shot. There was a 180-page manifesto, they called it, that he wrote. Kathy Hochul was out front, like all upset about it. Said she thinks it's militarized of some sort. I have no idea how they worked. I didn't even know that they existed. Then there was this, then they pan out to a map that says that 5 different locations had something along the same lines going on at the same day. I'm like, that's interesting. At AIDS to the hand. Of the arm attached to the navel and the legs of the most important whatever somewhere in the world, which doesn't seem to have public FaceTime. So that was whatever, but they go on and on and on about their human agenda, and honestly, I don't know how they got here. But I can say that in my instance, they held me out of, like, they had a symbol for the bird, and somebody who sat in an office when they were registering me for my last year of classes of where I was going to graduate. And it was a very mixed population. In fact, I was probably, like, Melissa and I, there was Melissa, Gina, myself. We were the only 3 white kids, and then there was like Martina. For that last year, only people I met. I think there was some girl named Catherine. And so, but I was in that school. And when I went to go register, like, there was the bird, there was like, well, no, I mean, like, there was no option to enter the bird and do something more significant and skillful right off the bat. Like, it was like your only options really at this point, college. But then college pursuit led to nowhere. And then I saw yesterday on one of the television shows, like, they already knew 5% went to college, then it increased to 40% went to college. Only 40% of that even graduates. And then they waited from 1996 to 2012 before they even allowed a entry in a job, these into a job market where somebody could sustain their own life in this country. So these are very strategically plotted and planned obsolescence moves by a War Department that's going unrecognized because their participants are in light showing that they're victimized somehow. You're not victims. You don't belong here. You were victims somewhere else. Somebody allowed you here. I don't know who. Now you're here, and now you're a real problem and a threat to society. If they weren't a threat to society, then in high school, when that guidance appointment happened in We're Not Family, and we're not even familiar in derm or genetics, if they really were here doing the right thing in this U.S., they would have allowed me into service. They would have sent a representative from my branch of military to brief me and to induct me and allow me into a life of service. But instead, that's not what happened. A representative from something that I am not, very whatever, shows up, and then they can't stop me from going to college, but that was it. So that's a problem, like, in a very real way. Because what happens is this airtime that these people that are not what I am are getting, they're very loud and proud, and there's a lot of their documentation on file after they, like, now there's a press secretary from a Haitian immigrant. That's a foreign invasive body inside domestic policy now for the United States of North America. How is that even allowed? That seems like against espionage. There's like I mean, like, they, on the movies, they talk about spies and all sorts of stuff that I can't follow because I don't know how it actually works in this real world dilemma they're creating. Seems like the opposite storyteller. But now you have a messenger at the podium in the White House controlling the press. That's a problem. After they already prevented me from joining this United States service for lifetime. So that was an option that wasn't even given. It was actually I was purposely prevented from going into. This is a problem. Because there's no other options. And they're coming over in droves. They're getting more public airtime, more and more problems that I'm seeing. And here's what this Bloomberg surveillance, whoever they are, I know there's a Michael Bloomberg, he used to be a New York City mayor. This is what one of the commercials are saying. And I noticed it's about energy and the electrical plug. There's many of them because they're under many different controls. For Source at Wizard and Wizardry.
With operations in Scotland, technologists in India, and customers all on.
Why are the technologists coming from India? Who made that bad decision in this form of electricity source.
All on different systems. You need to pull it together. So you call in IBM and Red Hat to create an open hybrid cloud platform. Now data is available anywhere securely. And your digital transformation is helping find new ways to unlock energy around the world. Let's create a hybrid cloud that can change an industry. IBM, let's create.
Mix that with the space race, and it's an even bigger dilemma and problem of people who just don't give a shit and make all the wrong decisions. Now, I saw something from a message came through from Finland the other day, and I said, oh, to get to the finish line, like, that would be so amazing. Their representatives look like such beautiful people in ancestry and in, like, a epigenetic kind of a way. Then I see today, I don't know if they refer to him as a president or a prime minister, so forgive me if I misspeak, but he's at a podium with a lady, or a woman. I don't know what their base level of respectful words are. Over here in North America, everything's so dirty with language at this point. Everything's slangly. So behind them were two flags of royal blue, like beautiful royal blue, like the color of my favorite BMW, before it was taken away. And that was Bavarian Motor Works. Then there was this gigantic gold statue of a warrior. They call it, they've got a blended, but they spell it a little different. It's Hela, Hela, which is Viking tradition, and Inki, Inki. I have tattooed on my Celtic cross. It was Minke, Minke, since I was on the wrong side of the whatever originally. Now it's broken FR, an A, and a loop, and then an NK, for Omri with INRI, which is what they use over here in a really sadistic, disgusting way, but just in memory of symbology of how it feels to be on the cross yourself. And some whatever. So this is the message I saw this morning with ancestry, the man speaking at the podium, and then symbolic, a warrior, in Wonder Woman they called the man Amazonian warrior, with a lion that backs her up, like a ferocious, fierce lion, although he looks very majestic because he does not have teeth displayed necessarily. Again, these symbolic gestures, they speak to my heart.
We have a big development in the diplomatic fallout from Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Two Nordic countries, Finland and Sweden, have announced plans to join NATO. MTS Tayyab is in Finland. MTS, good morning.
And see, above his head, it has hells, or hills, and then Inki, Inki. Niklaus.
Hey, good morning. Well, Russia is calling this move a grave mistake as Finland moves to join NATO, a decision which would see NATO's land border with Russia more than double in size.
We have today a historic day. And
This beautiful behind here. I don't have beautiful things that in my footpath that I am able to see like this. If I go into Manhattan, certain areas there are statues like this. Not this ornate, not this gold. Sometimes they're bronzed which has symbolic whatever, and sometimes they are of marble, like the original stone marble, not of metal. But there is a lion behind her.
And with that, the Finnish president and prime minister announced the Nordic nation's intention to join NATO, ditching decades of neutrality towards Russia.
The nuclear threat from Russia is, of course, a concern. Does joining NATO make Finland more vulnerable to that threat?
No. She's not standing in a White House, but at the podium, it is very significant. And now the White House here on Northeast no longer looks like a White House for speaker and for controlling a message. After they already controlled my future partially by withholding me from being able to get to a representative of my own or an inroad into wherever the eagle is at one eagle to two-headed eagle.
Nuclear threat, it's very serious. I think that within NATO, actually, it gives us security when it comes to nuclear, because NATO also have nuclear threat, nuclear weapons.
Russia's war in Ukraine triggered Finland's decision to join the military alliance, but a massive shift in public opinion here made it politically possible.
This is the amazing thing. They said something happened and I don't know what. It went from 20% to 70%.
Around 20% of Finns supported joining NATO before the war in Ukraine. Now 75% do. This swimming center in the heart of Helsinki doubles as a nuclear bomb shelter, one of over 5,000 around the capital city, a legacy of Soviet Russia's invasion here in the 1940s, says Tomi Ras with the Civil Defense Department.
The last wars that Finland had were quite a few decades ago.
1945. And you.
I mean, again, the profiles. It's just I don't get to see this over here as much.
Still think about it.
The probability is not a zero. It still is some kind of probability.
In Helsinki this morning, Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell welcomed Finnish leaders to NATO.
Frankly, their participation strengthens the alliance significantly.
Was that a salutation?
Now, the speed with which Finland and indeed Sweden are moving to join NATO is frankly unprecedented. But the leaders of both countries say they feel they have little choice but to join the military alliance. Nate.
MTS tie-up in Finland. Thank you. Ahead, we'll go back to Tony in Buffalo for the very latest.
Now, about last night's hockey game, there was a Ranger and a Penguin, and I couldn't decide because both of their symbology looked very important. But their numbers wound up being just as significant in this game, for me anyway. It ended at a 3 and a 4 between the Ranger and the Penguin. That in a game on ice with internal combustion engine is so incredibly significant, since I associate usually the ice rink with Canada. I don't really get ice rinks here. I think I was able to take, for a birthday party, my three boys once, to a skating ring. But other than that, I mean, again, I don't have the resources here in order to expose them to the sports life, which I would have loved to, but everything here is so much, it's like purposely designed for failure, and I'm already in a wounded state based on where the useless high school education just dumped out and everybody disappeared.
Victory for the Rangers last night. A power play goal in overtime led them to a series victory against the Pittsburgh Penguins. They won 4-3 to advance to the second round of the Stanley Cup playoffs, and it was quite a comeback. The Rangers had trailed 3-1 in the series, winning the series 4-3 and winning last night's game 4-3 in overtime. Now let's get over to John Elliott with your first alert forecast. Garden was on fire.
And you hear the call, Rangers, Rangers, Rangers. All right, so I want to show you this. New number is, look, we're up to 71.
It's star 1978, star 8378, Nicole, Cattaruzza. It's Earth, solar system, Milky Way, universe, galaxy is broken. It's Bayside Station, Bayside, New York, 11361.